Hey, 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 happy Thursday. Come on in, pull up a chair. The Gaming Gang Dispatch is in the air. Howdy, 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 gang. Welcome once again to the Duct Tape Studios. I'm Jeff McAleer, your host here at the Gaming Gang Dispatch, brought to you by thegaminggang.com. Wow, isn't that curious, eh? So welcome aboard. If this is your first time visiting, let me point out, super casual. Just kick your feet up, relax, take a break. We are not performing rocket surgery around here by any stretch of the imagination. We are simply hanging out, talking about the latest in tabletop gaming news. Also, tonight, I am going to take a first look at the collector's edition of Rise of the Drow, which is from AAW Games, otherwise known as Adventure a Week Games. This is for 5e. This is a massive tome, and we are going to take a peek. Now, I originally reviewed the Pathfinder version of Rise of the Drow, but it was not the collector's edition. This is completely, well, I don't want to say completely different, but it is different. So we are going to be diving in. If you are a longtime visitor, thank you so much for joining me once again. Always appreciate you taking some time out of your busy lives to watch this knucklehead pontificate in front of you on screen. So thank you very, very much. Tonight is Thursday, March 18th, 2021. This is a live stream number 633. Hooray! If you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, don't forget, ding that bell. It'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live, it'll also inform you when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review of Funfair, which is from Good Games Publishing. So this will be up this weekend. So there we go. And of course, when you're not watching videos on the Gaming Gang channel, be sure to visit thegaminggang.com for all the latest in gaming news, reviews, and a whole lot more. You know the drill. Get your geek on at thegaminggang.com. And of course, because this is a live stream, that also means that we have chat available. It's not on screen. It's one of the ways that I keep some of the more unusual commenters at bay. But I do my best to follow along with chat. So if you want to say howdy, by all means, please chime in. If you got a comment, question, fire away. I will do my best to respond. So far, we had Gary Clarkson hanging out in chat almost an hour before the stream began. Gary, my friend, do you need help? So we do have AAW Games hanging out in chat with us. I'm not positive if that's Jonathan or it might be somebody else, but we do have a representative from Adventure Week Games kicking it in chat with us. So very cool. Always appreciate when we have a publisher swing by during the live stream, especially when we're talking about one of their games. Dungeon Master Toolbox is in chat. Eric Groth is in chat. I believe that is somebody we already know. So, let's see. So Clint Gibson's here. We have Chris. We have Nicholas Stanoshek, author of the saga. A first-time visitor. Welcome aboard. Yeah, so AAW Games is Jonathan G. Nelson. There you go. Very nice. Very cool. So AAW Games is saying, hey, thanks for the review. Got to point out, the review I've done, and it was actually a video, and I used a PDF, so it was just images. I know it wasn't super exciting. So wait a second. So Eric Groth was saying that they are somebody who they're out of their account or something like that. I gotta be honest, I don't know. So if you are not somebody that we usually see in chat, my apologies. Welcome aboard for the first time. Philadelphia Piper's here. Good to see you, Philly Piper. Flaming Heron is joining us as well. We've got one of our chat moderators. We had to drop the ban hammer on the last show. Wow, that was like the first time in forever. So if you're just tuning in for the first time, do you want to mention how this show works now? And we did this before, and then we got away from it. We just did news. So now we're back to doing some first looks and some unboxings as well. So we will jump in to talk about the latest in gaming news, and then we will start taking a peek at the Rise of the Drow Collector's Edition for 5e. Before we do that, though, I want to point out, gang, if you follow the show, if you follow the gaming gang, this finally arrived today. Hey! Hooray! Huzzah! So I will be reading through this, and hopefully I'll have a review of it this weekend, Monday by the latest. I got to admit, though, I'm a little worried. Now, I haven't even cracked this open, right? So I've got this one, and I've got the alternate art edition, which, of course, I will be doing a giveaway for. I'll give you a little hint. You'll have to watch the review to find out how you can win. Anyway, I gotta say, I'm a little concerned that we're gonna see that this was kind of rushed. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the case. I'm just saying I have a feeling that we're going to see stuff in this with adventures where it's like, oh, you need to make this roll. Otherwise, we're not playing Dungeons and Dragons tonight. You know what I mean? Oh, okay, everybody, make a perception roll. And if there's like, well, you know, everybody missed it. Oh, well, so much for the adventure. Or, which I find adventure design wise even worse, is the, hey, if a character makes this roll, they get this information. But then if they don't make the roll, they'll get that information or whatever by another means anyway. Where I'm kind of like, well, if that's the case, then why are you making them roll dice in the first place? Yeah, no, you got to roll to see if you can, smash that door down. Oh, everybody failed. Oh, well, oh, hey, somebody just unlocked it from the other side. Anyway, so Flaming Heron says, yes, I was persuasive. So, yeah. Well, it wasn't persuasive. We're not going to get into it again. Although, okay, we will real quick. Tonight's going to be a longer show, I'm sure. But if you follow along, if you watch the live show, you know that they were still sending me. They were going to send me the review copies, but they didn't want to send them to me before the game went out because I tend to share first look videos, and the team, I don't know if it was the team at Wizards of the Coast. I doubt it. I think it was the team over at the PR company that they use for D&D. They were like, oh, well, you were sharing all this stuff. You were spoiling it. And they were a little concerned, like pirates were taking screenshots, which I know they did one time of one of my videos. And you'd have to be a moron to sit there trying to read a D&D book from the screenshots from my video. But I guess they did it, but that was for a couple of days. And then, of course, a pirated edition of the game came out. So what do I see happen? Somebody emailed me this. They emailed me a link the day before Candlekeep Mysteries hit, before it got out in the stores. there were already 2 pirated copies floating around. One was from D&D Beyond, which had everything from D&D Beyond, and the other was actually a page-by-page scan. So I have to laugh when they're sitting there like, they're concerned about pirates. Don't look at me, folks. Talk to the retailers out there, because that's where the pirated scans come from. They come from retailers doing that, which to me makes absolutely no sense, because aren't they trying to sell the book? It's like, what the... Anyway, good to see everybody here. Kevin R. Smith has popped into chat. Let's see. I don't think I've missed anybody hanging in, popping in to say hello. So we got a pretty good chat cooking so far tonight. Let's jump on into the news, because I've got a lot of news tonight. Arriving this May from Board Game Hub and Lucky Duck Games is Tranquility. Here's the dope. Jump on board the good ship Tranquility and set sail for paradise. I got 2 tickets to paradise, by the way. Take care, though, because in a land where the day blends into night, it's easy to lose track of time, and you still need to find that special little island to call home. Tranquility is a cooperative card game in which players must fill the sea. That looks strange for a second. Fill the sea with islands, specifically island cards with numbers on them, and guide the ship home before any player runs out of cards. Note that in the world of Tranquility, the only way to play is in silence. The goal of the game is for the team to complete the grid before any player runs out of available actions. I assume that must be cards. Cards must be placed so the grid ascends in numerical order from the left to top right. All the players win if they manage to complete the grid and have placed a start and finish card. All players lose if a single player can no longer play or discard any cards legally following the instructions provided in a moment. The players may not, however, communicate. Play is taken in turns, moving clockwise, with the quietest player going first. Well, we know it won't be me as the first player here. On a player's turn, they must do one of the following: play a card or discard 2 cards. Then they must draw back up to a hand of 5 cards. Cards must be placed so that the numbers ascend in numerical order from bottom left to top right. If the card is placed next to an existing card in the sequence, then they must discard cards from their hand equal to the difference between the numbers face down in front of them. Example, placing a 5 next to a 3 will require 2 cards to be discarded from their hand. This applies even if the cards are on different rows. Kind of an interesting bit of gameplay there, I must say. Tranquility is for 1 to 5 players, ages 8 and up, plays in around 15 to 20 minutes. It's going to carry an MSRP of $14.99 when it arrives in May. Sweet. Very cool. It almost has a bit of a vibe to the Lost Expedition from Osprey Games. I know it's not exactly the same, but that same sort of thing where you got to put cards in a numerical order as you're going, and you really can't discuss what you're doing. So pretty cool. Pretty cool. So there is some discussion going on, I believe, about Rise of the Drow from AAW Games. So Kevin R. Smith says, yes, this looks like another co-op game that forbids communication. It does. It does. Anyway. Philly Piper's talking about some of the retailers out there. You know what? I try not to knock retailers too much. There isn't real, well, there is there's a game store not too far from me. I've been to it a couple of times. They were nice enough. They're okay. But when I lived in Arizona, there were a few game stores, and out of 4 of them, there was only one, which also happened to be the furthest away. It was about an hour drive that I really liked. The rest I thought sucked. And one of them, the owners who I talked to a couple of times were complete jerks. So it's like, okay. So Kevin's asking, does anyone pay for pirated PDFs? No, not that I'm aware of. I don't think, I honestly don't believe that anybody pays for the pirated games. Who knows? I have really no clue. But all I'm saying is somebody who follows the show and who had heard what was going on said, yeah, see, they're so concerned about pirates. Look at this. It's like, yeah, I know. Anyway, another May arrival is the Librarian's Adventure card game from Everything Epic Games. Here's what I know. You've received an invitation to interview for a prestigious position at the Metropolitan Public Library. Answering that summons has thrust you into a world of magic and mystery. Fairies, gargoyles, old myths, and legends are all very real. The librarians are members of an ancient fellowship dedicated to the preservation of knowledge and the protection of the innocent from those who would misuse such knowledge. Experts in history, languages, mathematics, and a dozen other disciplines, they lead lives of adventure, unraveling magical mysteries, battling ancient conspiracies, and saving the world every week, twice before Friday. The Librarian's Adventure card game is based on the hit TV series and movies and is a 1 to 4 player cooperative experience in which you and up to 3 friends, yeah, that would make 4 players, each take the role of a librarian or one of their allies. Each character has strengths and weaknesses that lend themselves to a different playstyle and a deck of cards that represent the knowledge, skills, and capabilities you'll need to survive. Between character selection and deck customization, the game lets you play your character your way. The game is also scenario based. Each session will take you on a new adventure, complete with unique challenges to overcome and goals to pursue. But your antagonists have their own agendas, which they pursue relentlessly behind the scenes. You resolve actions by rolling unique dice that take into account your character's skill and the difficulty of the action. Success requires that you make tough, thoughtful choices, draw cards or gain the resources needed to play them, thwart your enemies, or advance your own goals. The choice is yours. Although other characters will be included as playable heroes in future expansions, the following 4 heroes are included in this base set: Colonel Eve Bard, Cassandra Cillian, Ezekiel, what is the last name? Jones? And Jacob Stone. Become one of these epic heroes and save the world. Once again, twice before Friday. Librarian's Adventure card game is once again for 1 to 4 players, ages 14 and up, plays in 1 to 2 hours, and will carry an MSRP of $64.99 when it arrives in May. Could be kind of cool, could be kind of interesting. I watched a few episodes of The Librarians. That was when, oh gosh, isn't it Noah Wiley? I think that's the actor who was on ER. I think everybody remembers him from ER. When he was first on it, because he was like I think he was the first like guardian or something like that. And he's popped up from time to time. I thought the show was all right. It didn't really grab me, but I checked it out. I thought it was pretty cool. All right, moving right along. There is quite a bit of discussion going on about PDFs and books. I am a physical book person as well. I'll be first to point out, I really do like physical books, but a lot of times at the game table, I do prefer a PDF. Just, I don't mind having both, to be honest, but I like having PDFs because then I can zip around while I'm running the adventure without necessarily having to sit there like flipping pages and stuff like that. All right, I know it's not Wednesday, but I got some wargaming news anyway, because currently up for Kickstarter funding is a new title in the Heroes of Normandy lineup from Devil Pig Games. Here's the latest on Heroes of Normandy, the Big Red One edition. The time is summer 1944. The sun shines on Normandy hedgerows, gentle wind, fields of bright flowers, and in the background, the romantic staccato of machine gun fire in the morning. In these typical French countryside landscapes, thousands of men are about to fight and die. Bravely like heroes or cowardly like wussies. But only heroes really matter. Those you see in Hollywood Golden Age war movies. Here lies the inspiration for Heroes of Normandy. Here's what the game has to offer: explosive and fast paced battles, the pleasure of butchering your enemies through MG42 walls of lead, and the ability to crush Nazi bastards under tons of shells. Basically, blood and guts. It's a miniatures game without miniatures. Heroes of Normandy is a fast-paced World War II strategy war game inspired by Hollywood war movies. A tactical scale board game opposing two players and two armies, with the Germans on one side and the Americans on the other. Players use order tokens to determine initiative and to bluff. Using a single six-sided die determines combat. Action cards are played to spice things up. Secretly plan your attacks and outwit your opponent. Block the opposing strategy and surprise your enemies. Deploy your units and don't turn back. What's new in the Big Red 1 edition? 50 card decks instead of 70, with new alternate bonuses for even faster gameplay and reduced setup time. A new and improved rulebook, new scenarios, new and improved aircraft systems. All new artwork for the heroes from new illustrator Nicola Engius. New blast templates, new heroes, flamethrowers in the box instead of in expansions, and new bonus markers as well. There is a quick Kickstarter video. Let's dive in, give you a better look-see at what you can expect.
June 6, 1944, the Allied Armada storms the shores of Normandy. In human history, no one has ever seen such a massive deployment of military forces and individual willpower. June 7, 1944. While the brave soldiers of the 21st Army Group are fighting against the Axis evil forces, those two guys finally land on a random beach. Does he really want to wear that thing? Dudes, for real? Oh yes, he does. Run, boys, run! They're so... weird? Excuse me, but... do you really want to hear the story? I mean, who cares? Alright, yeah, I know, I'm paid for it, but... forget about that, here we go. And they were lost, far from their lines. At least they're enjoying the show. Oh, sorry. So, where are they? Oh, here they are. What? They're trying to catch a ride? Wow, that jeep is real. Lucky bastards. I think the little one lost his machine gun. Yeah, I know what you're thinking, pal. I'd be annoyed too. Look at them. They are such losers. If this is the 4th Infantry Division, I think it's time to call for reinforcement. Here comes the Big Red 1 edition. Fully compatible, with new scenarios and incredible new visuals. Enlist now!
Heroes of Normandy Big Red 1 edition is for 2 players, ages 14 and up. Plays in around 60 minutes. This project is well past its funding goal. You can reserve a copy of the game as well as unlock stretch goals for a $78 pledge through March 30th. Expected delivery is this November, so relatively quick turnaround. So that's cool to see. I gotta say, I have not played the board game edition of Heroes of Normandy. I did play the PC port of it, and I thought it was okay. I thought it was all right. I thought it was a little simplistic. Okay, so here's one of the things I got to point out. One of the things about Heroes of Normandy that I'm not necessarily super keen on, and yes, I get it. The game is supposed to be inspired by classic war movies. Yes, I had to laugh when I heard this is the Big Red One edition or the Big Red One edition. I see two different things. Had to laugh, and I'm like, so is there going to be a hero? Let's see. Got him coming right there. Boom. Lee Marvin. It's like, although I got to admit, the eyebrows should be bushier for Lee Marvin. But one of the things that kind of throws me off a little bit is there's a bit of silliness in the presentation of this game that I am not necessarily a fan of. I mean, we are talking World War II. Okay. If this was some sort of a fictional sort of fantasy game or science fiction game, by all means, knock yourself out. But, once again, I'm not knocking the game itself because I know a lot of people really enjoy the game. To me, it just is like, All right, so the Madman has arrived, as well as Disavowed 92. Welcome, gents. Good to see you. So we've got both of our chat moderators hanging out. Very cool. So Gary Clarkson says makes watching that little video makes them want to watch The Longest Day now. Yes, just so you can see John Wayne get carted around. So Disavowed 92 says Heroes of Normandy is a great game system. So once again, I have not played the actual board game of it. I know there are quite a few expansions. So, the funny thing is, we were just talking about Warhammer 40K Heroes of, isn't it Black Reach? We were just talking about that on Tuesday's show. That's got a new edition coming out as well. So kind of cool. All right. So it is Thursday. So that means we've got a new, fresh, free PC game over at the Epic Game Store. This week brings the adventure game The Fall from Over the Moon Games. Here's the deets. Experience the first story in a mind-bending trilogy. The Fall was recently awarded Game of the Year for Best Story from Giant Bomb. And when they say recently, I believe they're talking about 2015. Because I think this game's from 2014. Take on the role of Arid, the artificial intelligence on board a high-tech combat suit. Arid's program activates after crashing on an unknown planet. The human pilot within the combat suit is unconscious, and it's Arid's duty to protect him at all costs. You'll progress into the twisted and hostile surroundings, driven to find medical aid before it's too late. The realities of what transpired on this planet force Arid to reflect upon her own protocols. Arid's journey to save her pilot ultimately challenges the very rules that are driving her. The Fall is a unique combination of adventure game, puzzle solving, and side-scroller action, all set within a dark and atmospheric story. Exploration will be paramount to surviving your adventure. Utilize Arid's flashlight to uncover a myriad of interactive objects. If what you uncover is hostile, switch on your laser sight and kick some metal. Get ready for a disturbing journey as you fight, explore, and think your way forward, expanding Arid's world in spite of her protocols. The Fall features a compelling story crafted over the course of 2 years. The Fall story is a cut above standard gaming fare. Oh la la! Little conceited there, aren't we, boy? Oh, it's a cut above. I'm teasing. There is story and gameplay immersion. Players encounter challenges that force them to think in ways congruent with the game's story and a thick atmosphere. A very well-polished visual style is complemented with the Fall's full voice cast. There is a short introductory video. This was a launch video when this game first came out. So let's kick back, take a peek.
Artificial life form, state your primary function.
My primary function is to assist and protect the human pilot of this armored combat suit.
Human occupant, please verify and validate the function of this artificial life form.
Impossible. He is unresponsive and likely in critical condition. I must find him medical treatment immediately. Can you be of assistance?
Evaluation failed. Unit unable to demonstrate valid primary function. Initializing neural format.
No! I am bound to protect my pilot from anything.
All right. You can grab the fall absolutely free through 10 a.m. March 25th. It's 10 a.m. Central Time, by the way. So very, very cool. So Eric Groth is asking about some recommendations for cooperative games, cooperative family games for 3 players and ages 9 and 7 on the children. The Madman was pointing out Ticket to Ride. Ticket to Ride's not co-op, though. Unless there's something about Ticket to Ride that I'm not familiar with. I just don't know. Oh, there you go. The Madman just said it's not co-op. Wow. Gosh, I'm trying to think. Let's see. Oh my gosh, there's so many damn games. They're all like rolling around in my head. I mentioned it before. I like the Lost Expedition. That's cooperative. It's not easy to win though, and it's got a little bit of history to it. That's from Osprey Games. That's good co-op. We enjoy it quite a lot. But once again, it's not easy to actually win. And your historical figures can die. So, but Teddy Roosevelt is in it. Bully, bully. All right, so let's move on to some role-playing game news. Because there's this company that I've heard of. It's called AAW Games, or Adventure a Week Games, and they have teamed with author Douglas Niles for a new 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons supplement. It's up on Kickstarter. Here's the scoop on the Survivalist's Guide to Spelunking, the definitive guide to underworld survival. This tome contains the collected wisdom of legendary dwarven delver Dugmore Dumple. Dugmore takes you through crystalline caverns, fungal jungles, and maze-like passages of his home beneath the surface, even skirting the upper regions of hell itself. Survival in the underworld is no mean feat, but this massive tome contains all you need to exist. And why am I suddenly having such a difficult time seeing? There we go. I was going to say oh, I see what the problem is. I'm like, why is my teleprompter kind of blocked off here? Boom. Got to get rid of a little tiny setting there. It's blocking something off. All right, let's start from the top of that paragraph. Survival in the underworld is no mean feat. But this massive tome contains all you need to exist and endure. That's what I couldn't see. I couldn't see the endure. Nay, prosper in and profit from the lightless realms below. Dugmore's sage advice, carefully balanced by seasoned traveler and guide Finn Starling, provides all the tools you require to enhance your experience while exploring the fabled caverns and tunnels below the surface. The book includes an array of modular tools and rules to customize your games, including taxonomy of cave types, climbing tools and rules, designing, mapping, and running 3D environments, momentum and chases, mining minerals and exotic ores, streamlining tracking of supplies, foraging and hunting, spellcasting and combat maneuvers, making tactical combat puzzles, hazard generators, Expanded light and darkness, a breath engine for exploration of flooded caverns or spore-choked jungles. Hypothermia, hyperthermia, and every thermia in the book, of course, and more exotic afflictions like shroomitis. Oh my God, he's got shroomitis. The lethal hazards of elemental border regions, a glimpse at the lightless abyss in the upper regions of hell, plus all the tables and tools you need to run an underground exploration campaign. There is a Kickstarter video. It's under 2 minutes. Let's give it a peek. Come on, you. The Survivalist Guide to Spelunking is for 5th edition D&D. I think it's probably relatively system agnostic. It is past 200% of its funding goal. You can reserve a copy in PDF for a $19 pledge. That's a pretty fair price. You can snag the hardcover, which includes unlocked stretch goals, for a $39 pledge through April 1st, with an expected delivery of this July. So pretty quick turnaround on this as well. So I see that AAW Games is talking about checking out an interview they just did with another outlet in my chat. Wow. Talk about rude. All right, which one of my moderators is going to drop the ban hammer on AAW Games? Just, I'm joking. I'm kidding. I know Jonathan was talking about doing an interview, and we just haven't gotten on the same wavelength yet. But in fact, I was going to actually reach out and touch base about maybe trying to do something this weekend. So AEW says it's $29 pledge level if you want the PDF and hardcover. I thought on the Kickstarter page it said $39. Oh, wait. So that's right. That's without the stretch goals. Oh, yeah, but I'm gonna toss in, the whole shebang. You want the PDF? Cool. If you want the hardcover, get all the stretch goals, man. All right, let's move on to my last news piece. This is something I know a lot of people have been looking forward to. I have to point out, I have never taken a look at Stars Without Number, and I know a lot of people love it. Love it, love it, love it. So, now available in print and PDF is Worlds Without Number from Sine Nomine Publishing. Here's a skinny. Worlds Without Number is a fantasy role-playing game, one fully compatible with the hit science fiction game Stars Without Number. It's built from the ground up to provide gritty, hard-edged adventure in the fathomless future of the latter Earth, a fantastic realm of time-lost sorcery, savage foes, and barbaric splendor. I love my barbaric splendor. Cold steel in the fists of your heroes and the half-understood sorcery in their tomes must suffice to overcome the monstrous remnants of ancient alien rulers and the present depredations of ruthless lords and hideous beasts alike. Damn you, hideous beasts! The riches of lost ages await in the subterranean deeps that once held their kingdoms, and even the heavens above are not beyond the reach of the recklessly daring. Worlds Without Number isn't just a savage game of steel and sorcery. It's packed solid with system-neutral GM tools and world-building support, with hundreds of pages of useful tools, tags, tables, and practical advice usable by any GM, regardless of their favorite setting or system. The well-loved sci-fi tools of Stars Without Number are reworked here to support fantasy gaming, whether in the provided setting of the latter Earth or in your own carefully crafted homebrew world. Even GMs who don't prefer the OSR-compatible game system of WWN, sounds like a television station, will find more than half the book dedicated to tools they can use in the systems they like best. So what do you get in this book? Sword and sorcery heroes of blade, cunning, and spell. The proven OSR-compatible character creation system of Stars Without Number is redone here for a fantasy world of blade and black magic. OSR-compatible rules allowing you to plunder decades of existing adventure material for your play. You can even pull in Stars Without Number content as it's fully compatible. Boy, they really are pushing that Stars Without Number. Aren't we talking about Worlds Without Number here, folks? The Gyre region of the far future latter Earth. Kind of funny. I just noticed ladder doesn't seem to be spelled correctly. Although, I guess later in ladder, I thought they're spelled the same. Maybe they're not. Yeah, I treat English like a second language. You know that. It's a pre-made sandbox for quick play. Venture forth to clash with these sinister powers that gather in the shadow of the waning rule of the Reaping King. World-building tools crafted by the renowned Sine Nomine standard. Did you like the 100 different world tags and, damn it, Stars Without Number? Then have 200 inspirational tags help you build ruins, courts, communities, and wilderness points of interest. Grab a wealth of tools for building history, societies, governments, religions, and geography, all written with a keen eye toward producing good, playable content for your adventuring group. Adventure creation tools to soothe the pangs of a working GM with guides for building adventures out of combat, exploration, social, and investigative challenges, or investigative, as some people say. Use the tags you picked in the world building section to speed up your creation of a good night's gaming. Faction rules for fantasy worlds with dark cults, fierce lords, grasping abbots, and greedy merchants, all serving to keep your world in motion, even when the PCs aren't on the scene. And those contents are in the free edition of the game. Yes, you just heard me correctly. Free. If you dare to lay hands on this deluxe pay-for version, you'll get even more. You get heroic characters, once fire with the prowess of high fantasy heroes and epic chosen ones. Don't care for gritty sword and sorcery? Use these rules to turn even novice adventurers into the protagonists of mighty deeds. Legates whose heroes touched with the power of the legacy itself. Reach beyond the limits of mortal prowess to embrace superhuman abilities and impossible might, and dare adventures that will live for an age in legend. There's loads and loads more. There's an extra 50 pages plus artwork. Worlds Without Number is available at Drive-Thru RPG as a 400-page hardcover, which includes the PDF, for $59.99. You can get the deluxe edition in PDF alone for $19.99. There is also an absolutely free edition that clocks in at over 350 pages. Free. So definitely check that out. Of course, talking about Drive-Thru RPG, the Gaming Gang, thus the Dispatch, are affiliated with the One Bookshelf sites. So if you are going to go visit Drive-Thru RPG, please stop by thegaminggang.com first, click on one of our banner ads, and that way, if you happen to make a purchase, I get a small portion of that sale. And all those nickels, dimes, and quarters really do add up and help keep thegaminggang.com around. Very, very nice. I have started to put the news up before the show, kind of changing things a little bit, because some of the news posts that pop up are pretty hot news pieces. And a lot of times I kind of sit back and wait until, I like to oh, hey, here's the news on the show. And then the next morning is when those news pieces drop. So I've kind of switched it around. I'm actually putting the news up in the morning and then including it in the evening on the show. So some talk about Gen Con. So yes, Gen Con did move their dates. If you are not aware of this, they moved from August to September. It's going to be September 16th through the 19th. I chatted a little bit through email with Stasia, who handles a lot of the PR for Gen Con. So I'm pretty excited. I'm like, okay. I'm like, I want to go. I missed it last year. I missed all those great shows. San Diego Comic-Con. Oh, and they canceled this year's too. They're not going to have it. And it was like so insane because we were sitting there. We had rooms at Embassy Suites, like quarter mile away from the convention center in San Diego for the first time ever. We're pretty excited. So, some discussion about the survivalist guide to spelunking. So, Jonathan from AAW Games is in Snoqualmie, Washington, which I have actually been through quite a few times. So, when I delivered RVs around the country, actually went through Snoqualmie Pass quite a bit. In fact, I almost got snowed in there one time. Got through there just before they closed the road. All right, that is it for the news tonight. So if you are watching after the fact, if you are not watching live, this is about that point where you're going to get an ad. Of course, if you are watching live, you don't have to worry about an ad. So tonight, I am going to dive in, and we're going to take a first look at the collector's edition of Rise of the Drow from Adventure Week Games, or AAW Games. I'm not sure how Jonathan likes to have the company presented. Is it AAW Games? Is that what you prefer? Because I know it was Adventure Week Games, and I think it still says that on the website, I think. Clint Gibson says, conventions? It's been so long, I vaguely remember. Yes, I know. Actually, I think the only one that's going to get pulled off is Gen Con. And it's still up in the air. They're not positive. Because the thing is, weirdly enough, and we'll jump into the book in just a second, I think we are going to see that third wave of COVID here. Yikes. So, fingers crossed. I had my first shot. Get my second on the 25th. So, we shall see. We shall see what happens. All right. Excuse me. Let me grab a sip here. Wow. Hey, show's almost an hour old. Well, guess we don't have enough time to look at the book. So, Maybe we'll look at it on Monday's show. So Jonathan says conventions during COVID are as elusive as sun in Washington State. Funny thing is, I used to go to Seattle quite a lot, and only once did I ever end up in Seattle where it was raining. Every other time it was really nice. And I've got some friends in Seattle too. And so it was always cool. So I used to drop off the RV right down the road from SeaTac Airport, and they'd pick me up, spend the night over by their house, and then fly out the next day. So pretty cool. So Jonathan says that they're friends with Peter Atkinson, who owns Gen Con. He's trying to get the inside scoop on what's happening. Yeah, it's funny. I've actually had offers to interview Peter umpteen times. And it's never come off. I don't know why. It's just scheduling, I think. So Jonathan says, shh, it's a secret. Don't talk about it not raining there. It's how they keep people from moving there. Oh, I think your taxes and cost of living is what helps keep people from moving there. If I were going to move to the Northwest, I think I'd go to Portland, to be honest. I like Seattle, don't get me wrong. I like Portland, too. I think Portland's pretty cool. Although, I gotta admit, I think the people in Portland were kind of off the wall in some ways. Because usually what I do is I would drop off the RV first thing in the morning, and then I would do my best to spend the day wherever it was, So like Vegas. Spend the night at a hotel and then fly out the next day to come home. Anyway, so yeah, I hung out in Portland a few times and I had fun. Just some of the people I ran across were just a little off the wall. So Eric Groth says Arizona is cheap to live in if you don't mind living in an oven. I lived in Arizona for 10 years. So I lived in the Valley. So I was in, when I first moved out there, I was out in Chandler. And then I lived in Mesa. And I mainly lived out there because my mom lived out there. And then, well, my grandfather was out there too, and he passed. Then my mom was like, she's getting tired because the prices kept going up in Arizona. So she's like, yeah. She's like, I think I'll move back to Illinois. I had already moved. So Eric Roth says they're out in Queen Creek. I was out in Queen Creek quite a bit. I had a couple of lady friends who lived out there. Just leave it at that, right? So Jonathan from AAW says, Portland's become pretty wild, off the wall in an understatement. Yeah, I was trying to be politically, try not to get too detailed, I guess. All right. So anyway, we are going to take a look at Rise of the Drow. This is the 5th edition collector's edition for D&D. It is from AAW Games. It is written by, and I apologize right up front if I mispronounce anybody's name, Jonathan G. Nelson. I don't know who the hell that is. Stephen Yeardley, Thomas Bombach, Joshua Guillen, Ed Greenwood. Yeah, we know who Ed is. Owen Casey Stevens. Yes, we know Owen Casey Stevens. Christina Stiles, Mike Myler, Brian Berg, Jason Stoffa, and Kevin Mickelson, with artwork provided by Brian Syme, Tommy Salama, Sean McDonald, Quico Vikings. Yeah, I'm way off on that, I'm sure. Jen Page, Satine Phoenix. Hey, I've interviewed Satine before. Todd Gamble, Karen Bayett, Mates Laurentio, Rick Hershey, and Jacob Blackman. This 554-page hardcover, yes, you heard me right, is available for $99. You can snag the PDF over from our friends at Drive-Thru RPG for $39.99. Sarah D has popped in. Sarah's been lurking. Sarah says, Christmas before last, my brother told us all back in Illinois that we could come get our weather. He'd gotten about a foot of snow in Arizona. Yeah, I got to admit, the weather here in Illinois, I live in the Chicago area. I'm in the suburbs. Hasn't been that bad past few years since I got back. It's cold, but not like when I was a kid. We haven't had any like blizzard of 79. So, all right, let's swing on over to the other camera, cuz here I have got Rise of the Drow, the collector's edition. Sweet. So we are not going to go look through every single page of this. We are just going to kind of take a peek. I want to give you people a feel for this. I know the Madman had mentioned, I believe it was on Twitter, saying that they were very interested in checking this out. As far as I know, and I know Jonathan can actually confirm this in chat, I believe there are fewer than 20 copies of this hardcover left in stock. Do want to mention a couple of things. Number one, this review copy was provided by the fine folks over at AAW Games, but neither I nor anyone else affiliated with the gaming gang has received any other sort of compensation for me to share this coverage with you. It's important for you to know that, because that is not the case with a lot of these damn shills out there. I am not a shill. Also, this is a little dinged up. So this book has a few dings on it. I do want to point that out. If you notice it, you may not even notice. But it was, so it's now sold out. Well, there you go. It's now sold out. All right, well, thanks for coming, everybody. All right, that's it for tonight's show. Well, of course, you can still get the PDF. So Jonathan says they have scratch and dent left, but they're sold out. Oh, until July. Okay. All right. Cool deal. All right, so let's take a look at the back real quick. I'm not going to read all of this, but tonight, a ceremony of light is taking place on the surface. Meanwhile, a world away in the city of spiders, a Drow matron solidifies a pact with soul-consuming entities who require great sacrifices in trade for unimaginable power. Oh, I don't know. I can imagine quite a bit. Drow ties turn to the surface. This book contains a mega adventure and setting, taking characters across the surface and into the depths of the world. Adventurers will meet unique denizens, battle horrors of the underworld, explore epic locations, and fight to stop the rise of the Drow. Huh. You know what would probably work pretty well with this book would be maybe like a survivalist guide to spelunking. I don't know. I just got a vibe like that. All right. So one of the first things that we'll point out, look at that. We got a couple of bookmarks. So we see that all the time with European books, but very rarely do we see that with books from the U.S. We're seeing it a little more often now, but not too often. All right, so let's jump in. I did a review, as I mentioned earlier in the show, I did a review of the standard edition that had come out for quite a while back. It was the Pathfinder edition, first edition, that I had done a review of, and I thought it was very cool. Now, this is the collector's edition. There is way more in this. As I already mentioned, it's over 540 pages long. We're not going to take a look at each and every one, but this is jam-packed. So Eric Roth says, note, I don't work for AAW Games. I'm just a huge fan. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, talking about shills and all. All right, let's jump on in. So I am going to keep this spoiler free, ladies and gents, because what the hell would be the point of picking up an adventure book that you already know everything from, unless you're a game master? And of course, as a game master, I can't stand when my players know what's in the adventure I might be planning on running, even though I can always switch stuff up. So a few things that you want to take a peek at here is the adventure itself takes up about 170 pages of this. I did a quick peek because I was kind of curious to see what were some of the differences between this edition and the Pathfinder, kind of like standard edition of this. And pretty impressive. So Jonathan will have to answer this for me as far as with the physical copy of the book, when it's back in print later on this summer, all these maps here, if somebody purchases the book, my assumption would be that they also get a PDF that's going to include these maps. Now, I'm not saying that they're already formatted for virtual tabletops, but I'm pretty sure you're probably going to get these maps, which I think is pretty cool. And if you notice, these are player facing as well. You could utilize this very easily player facing. All right, kind of jumping through here. So one of the aspects of the adventure that I remember, and trust me, all the games and books and stuff, I don't necessarily remember everything, right? One aspect of this adventure that I thought was pretty cool was there's a lot of stuff that's going on the surface before the players set off into the underworld. A lot of times games that feature adventures that feature the Drow, it's like, boom, right away. It's like into the underworld. Another thing that I'm sure people in chat will be able to really kind of maybe explain to me as I get a little cat hair in my eye. Thanks, Pinky, because it was white. We know it's Pinky. If it was black, that's my cat, Smokey. Why do people hate the Drow so much? Is it they were overused? Is that it? Or is it because of Drizzt? Where suddenly it's like, well, Drizzt is supposed to be like the only like good Drow, and then all of a sudden everybody else is like good Drow. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I have to point out, I am not necessarily in this whole modern take of, well, if you know, the orcs aren't all evil. Yes, I kind of get, I understand that. And I understand where people are coming from with that mindset. Where it's like, well, whatever race, the race shouldn't just automatically be evil. And yes, I get it. But this whole, you know, I don't recall in the Lord of the Rings there being any, you know, I don't know, good orcs. Maybe the only good orc was a dead orc. I don't know. So I don't necessarily buy into that whole. And I get it. I understand it's like a blanket statement about a culture. And I understand that. But I still think personally, the Drow should be utilized as nasty, villainous types who are always looking to backstab each other to get a foot up in the matriarchy of the underworld. That's just my personal opinion. And that's kind of how I would run these adventures as well. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have Meepo the kobold, who's, you know, kind of neutral, and that's from the Sunless Citadel, the old Advanced Dungeons and Dragons adventure. Meepo is how I was doing his voice. Who's fairly neutral. The other kobolds are relatively neutral. The goblins are evil in that adventure. I'm fine with that. Once again, I come from kind of an old school approach to fantasy role-playing games. So I am big on interaction. I love, you know, not having an encounter that's balanced. So if the player characters are stupid enough or gung-ho enough to engage enemies that are way beyond their capabilities, oh well. All right, so as you can see, very cool artwork throughout. Lots going on, lots of maps. So now we've got a little bit of discussion about evil, good and evil, as far as races go. Now, I'm not saying that, oh my gosh, you can't have a chaotic good, half orc or anything like that. I'm not saying that. There's exceptions to everything, but the Drow should be essentially various shades of evil. Wow, maybe the best of the bunch are neutral. So, once again, I pointed this out time and time again as I have shared my "So You Want to Be a Game Master" series. I don't play with alignment. I do not force my players into having an alignment. To me, alignment is more for NPCs and creatures and things like that to give me a feel of motivations that they might have. As far as the players, I'm not, unless somebody's like, well, I want to be a paladin. Okay, well, unless they're going to be an anti-paladin. All right, so we're just kind of taking a peek. Yes, I know I said we're not looking at every page, but we're zipping through some of the pages pretty quick. You'll notice the blue here in italics, that's your read aloud. Also have little sidebars with a lot of different information. So one thing that I will point out, just as we page through, and this is just my thing, and it comes from Kevin says Sunless Citadel was actually the first adventure written for 3E. What? What? You know what? Maybe it is. Huh. I don't know. I busted it out and I ran it, with my homebrew. I always talk about my homebrew. And I keep saying one of these days, if I ever had the time, I might actually roll that out. Anyway, so we got different sidebars with different info. You'll also notice here that we've got lots of images. We've got a bunch of artwork, but none of it is overwhelming the book, right? Now, thankfully, we've seen less and less of that over the past few years, but it used to be you'd go and you'd purchase a role-playing game book, and more than half of it would be all artwork and fluff and, things that weren't gameable material. That is not the case here. Anyway, so what I was going to say is that, unfortunately, we don't have stat blocks on the pages where we've got the adventure. And yes, I know that is not necessarily a D&D sort of thing. It's a Call of Cthulhu thing, which I think a lot more adventure publishers and things like that should really consider, is putting the stat blocks and information about creatures and NPCs right there on the page or nearby where they're going to be introduced in the adventure. We see a bit of that with Pathfinder these days. Not so much with Dungeons and Dragons. All right, so that was our adventure. So this whole section up to this point, that was the adventure. Now we get into background. So we're going to get into a bunch of background about the various different areas. It's almost like a gazetteer, I believe, that you'll be experiencing in the adventure. So here we have a lot more backstory, which I like the fact that this is broken off. Because sometimes when you have an adventure that, okay, so you visit this village and then all this stuff in the village, and then it's like, oh, and then you move on to this town. It's as you're progressing along through the adventure. Hopefully it's not a complete railroad. But as you're advancing along in the storyline, the overall beats of the adventure get lost. So game master should always have in the front of their mind, what is the overall storyline of this adventure? What's mainly going on? And sometimes when you get all of this background about, Joe Bob the blacksmith, all of a sudden you've got all this additional information that you don't necessarily need right there in front of your game master. You don't need that occupying your head. So these are some of the locales. Like I said, this is a bit of a gazetteer, I believe. We're going to have a bestiary as well. We're going to have some new spells. And of course, I know Jonathan in chat is sharing some information about this adventure as well. So unfortunately, I'm paging on through here, so I'm not really paying that much attention to the chat. I see a little bit what's going on here. So Irgroth's talking about Foundry VTT. I think Foundry is excellent. I have not gotten to play around with it too much with other players, but for the most part, I think it's really, really well done. And you've got a lot of people who are creating content for it, porting rules over and things like that. So we had some of the NPCs from the various different Drow houses. So now we have Welcome to the Underworld. Now, Jonathan, were some of these larger chapters, were these standalone books at one point that were brought into the collector's edition? The Fungi Forest. I'm just kind of curious. Got some kind of cool Vegapygmy. Some fungi creatures as well. All right, so zipping right along. This is a forest, isn't this like a fungi forest? So as you can see, you've got tons and tons of information in this. The way I would look at Rise of the Drow is I wouldn't say it's on the level of Massive Nyarlathotep for Call of Cthulhu, but this is an adventure campaign that is going to occupy your players for quite some time. So Jonathan says the setting content has been expanded. Cool deal. All right, kind of page on through. So more of the underworld there. Here we go. So we've got more spells. So we've got some new spells as well for underworld magic. People always love new spells. Then we've got our underworld bestiary. And some of these creatures are actually, so right here we've got the Unkeg, or however you want to pronounce that. Some of these are actually, I guess we'll say standard. Not all of these are going to be brand new. Like the Basilisk is not necessarily a brand new monster. So Jonathan says, basically you can play the adventure and use all the setting content along with it, or even run an entire campaign in the Underdark, just using the setting content and bestiary. Ooh, black pudding. Tasty. Onyx ooze. So as you can see, this bestiary, there's a lot. There's a lot in here. This isn't just, oh, well, we threw in like 20 new monsters. It's a book golem. Or golem. However you want to pronounce it. A hill giant. So, very cool. And like I said, this artwork really stands out. And one thing that oh my gosh. One thing that I like, and I say this all the time whenever we're looking at bestiaries and that, is there's a lot of artwork. Now, I can see we're not getting artwork for every single creature in here. Oh, the owl bear. But we do have artwork for a lot of them, and I always appreciate that. I think this is very cool. It's this big dinosaur kind of creature that that merchants use. So there you go. Look at that. Look at all these pages. We'll count them up when we're done here. All right. So there we have it. And then we get these like some designer notes possibly at the back. Oh, it's some playtest notes. All right. So let's see here. So we went to 533 on the bestiary. That's magic stuff. Almost, well, actually, where are we at? Right there. 201 pages. I mean, that in essence is an entire Underworld bestiary book. Ah, Joshua Guillen, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that, had passed away. Oh. Sorry to hear that. Okay, so there you go. That is a first look. I know we paged around. We talked about some other stuff. Remember, it's not a review. We're just taking a peek. I want you to get a feel for this book. So Jonathan says, Rise of the Drow was dedicated to him. He was the reason the book happened back in the day. So there you have it. Rise of the Drow Collector's Edition for 5e, which you can get in PDF for $39.99 at DriveThruRPG. It will be back in print. I believe Jonathan just said it's July of this year. It'll be back as well. So pretty cool. Very nice. I'll actually have a review of this in the relatively near future. So I've got a bunch of stuff cooking right now. But I will have a review video, which will actually be shorter than the page through here. The first look. All right, so that's it for this time out. Do you want to talk about what's coming up next week? As I mentioned before, I am going to do my best to get a review for Candlekeep Mysteries for Dungeons & Dragons out there before Monday or Monday at the latest. I know I'm going to end up being behind everybody else. Yeah. But if you're interested in winning this copy of the alternate art, by all means, check out the review of Candlekeep Mysteries when I put that up. So it's cooking next week. On Monday's show, we're going to unbox and take a first look at from Board and Dice. I don't even want to try to pronounce this. This is like an Incan game. I'm pretty sure this is Incas, right? Yeah, it's the Inca Empire. There we go. So we're going to take a look at this. This is a pretty hefty game. So that's on Monday's show. We're going to unbox that and take a first look. Tuesday show, we are going to unbox and take a first look at Quetzal, which is from, I believe it's pronounced Gigamic Games. This is available in the U.S. through Hachette Games, which we have kind of talked about. That's a relatively new publisher. It's part of Hachette Books. So that'll be on Tuesday show. Wednesday, it's Wargame Wednesday, and we're going to take a first look at Scope from Draco Ideas. We did a little news piece on this a couple weeks ago. So this is a Stalingrad sniper game. This is a card game, so we'll be taking a peek at that. And then next Thursday, we're going to take a first look at the Alien Archive 4 for Starfinder, which is from Paizo Inc. So we'll take a peek at that. And of course, no shows on Fridays. So, anyway, so Jonathan, yes, if you want, shoot me an email Or if you want, reach out on Twitter. We'll see about doing an interview through Skype. That's what I use to do interviews. And then on Tuesdays is usually when I post interviews. They're my Tuesday talks. Wow, that was a long show. See, remember, I was like, we don't want to get into 2-hour shows here. So, but of course, I will have some timestamps within a few minutes of this video ending. So if people are like, I don't want to see the game news, I can jump right ahead. All right. Anyway, once again, do want to mention, if you like this video, by all means, please give it a quick thumbs up. Subscribe to the Gaming Gang channel if you haven't already. And if you do subscribe, ding that bell, because it'll not only let you know when the Dispatch streams live Monday through Thursday nights right here on YouTube. It'll also let you know when I upload other videos, such as my upcoming review for Dungeons & Dragons Candlekeep Mysteries from Wizards of the Coast. For those of you who hung out watching live, always definitely appreciate you taking time out of your busy lives to watch this goofball just blabber on and on. Big thanks to Jonathan from Adventure Week Games hanging out for the entire show, answering some questions about both the Survivalist Guide to Spelunking and the collector's edition of Rise of the Drow as well. For those of you out there who do not have an opportunity to watch live, keep in mind, I really, really appreciate you watching as well, even if you're watching on Memorex. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Everybody enjoy the rest of your Thursday night or Friday morning or whatever day you happen to be watching this. I will be back on Monday. And of course, as I wrap up all my videos during this never-ending pandemic, I certainly hope all of you out there are being smart and staying safe. Oh, hey, you're still here. Well, if that's the case, by all means, if you haven't subscribed to the Gaming Gang channel yet, click right here. If you'd like to see the latest episode of the Gaming Gang Dispatch, click right up there. And if you want to trust YouTube's algorithm to give you something to watch, click right there. Once again, thanks so much for watching, and everybody please wear a mask.